Good, Erlen, you can go ahead and start the live stream.
Okay. Thank you all for being here. The August 31st, 2023 Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting is now in session. It's noted for the record that commissioners are attending today's meeting via the web, and a quorum of commissioners is present. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the internet, and a link is posted on the Oregon Lottery website. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Here.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Here.
Chair Safoff.
Here. Thank you. Will the clerk also inform the commission of who else is in the meeting?
Yes, Kathy Ortega, Chris Scarro, Dr. Mike Wells, Ty Calandriello, Matt Shelby, Syed Hussein, and Wendy Johnson.
Great, thank you. Members of the public have the opportunity to provide written public comment to the commission for this meeting. Jess, could you please confirm that no public comment was received?
Yes, that is correct. No public comment was received.
Thank you. With that, then we'll move to the first item on our agenda, the director's compensation. But before we start that, I would like to congratulate Mike Wells for being appointed by Governor Tina Kotek to be the new lottery director, pending Senate confirmation, of course, in September. Speaking on behalf of the commission, we would like to thank you, Mike, for your time as interim director these last 8 months, and for working closely with us and our stakeholders to ensure our mission. We value your transparent and straightforward approach to managing this agency and look forward to our continued work together. A recommendation to approve the director's compensation was provided to the commission in advance of today's meeting. I want to note that the lottery followed its normal compensation analysis process, which includes a market review and salary surveys that are compiled by independent research organizations that obtain salary data for comparable positions in other organizations. Thereafter, the lottery provided this data to the Oregon Department of Administrative Services for its review and approval. If there are no questions or concerns from the commission, is there a motion to approve the director's compensation?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission approve the compensation for the director of the Oregon State Lottery, pending Senate approval, per the information provided to the commission.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion is passed. Welcome, Mike. Let's go to the minutes of the previous commission meeting. The minutes of the previous commission meeting have been circulated to the commission in advance of today's meeting. If there are no changes to the minutes, is there a motion to approve?
I move that the minutes of the Oregon State Lottery Commission meeting held on July 28th, 2023 be approved as final as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion is passed. And Mike, I was so excited about you becoming the permanent director. I entirely missed your report. So we'll go back to the second agenda item and get the Mike's report, the director's report. Sorry about that.
Hey, no problem at all. Good morning, Chair Safoff, commissioners. I wanted to start by just saying thank you for the opportunity to lead this organization. I've been honored and humbled actually to be asked to do so, and definitely committed to ensuring this organization continues to meet its mission. I've enjoyed my time as interim. It was a great test drive to see what I was getting myself into. And so I really look forward to continuing in this role. So thank you for this support, and I really appreciate it. Look forward to working with you in the future. So moving on to our report for this year. Earlier this month, Lottery worked with vendors and staff to successfully launch Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations Microsoft system. This is an updated software which replaces our obsolete Microsoft product known as AX 2009. So based on that title, you know how long we've had it implemented. This project started about 3.5 years ago, and it was through the resiliency and hard work of not only Lottery staff, but a number of vendors that we have gone live despite a lot of hurdles, right? This went through all of our COVID pandemic time, which made this even more difficult to get this project off the ground. So D365, as we are calling it, supports Lottery's financial responsibilities as the system of record for our gaming revenue, supports activities to transfer funds to the state's treasury each year. Alongside these critical business functions, D365 is an important business platform for functions in financing, accounting, distribution, procurement, and contracts. We're continuing to work some bugs out of the system, which is expected, getting staff trained on a new system. As we said, the old system has been here for a very long time. And so trying to train all of us to use something new is going to take some time. But we look forward to what it's going to bring to this organization and some future adds to the system, which is going to make our work a little bit easier. The upgrades have certainly modernized our financial systems and have improved us going into the future. This was a very long, very difficult, stressful project for everybody involved. And I just really want to extend a great deal of thanks to our staff who have remained committed through some hard times, despite the challenges, and it made this very successful. So again, thank you to our staff for a job well done. A follow-up on our video lottery terminal field trial for the Cascada VLT terminals. As a reminder, we entered into a test period starting last spring on a new vendor for our VLT terminals. The new machines featured a dual screen multi-game cabinet and will be holding a lot of our players' favorite games. I'm happy to report the Cascada trial went well. It met our sales and service performance goals, and we will be purchasing 1,175 of those terminals. We expect them to be arriving probably the end of July next year, and we'll be working on a deployment plan to get those out. So we're excited to have a new vendor in this category and a new set of terminals that will bring some new excitement. This month, Salem celebrated the grand opening of Courtney Place, a new 34-unit housing project for veterans. It's significant to us because $6.1 million in lottery-backed bonds were used to construct this facility. Courtney Place, named after the long-term serving Senate President Peter Courtney, is designed to address challenges that are unique to veterans who may be impacted by issues relating to their service. Veterans from both Marion and Polk counties will be served at this location, including women veterans. It's meaningful to see projects like this connect the work we do with our beneficiaries. So we're excited to see this construction project come to life. Moving on, since 1996, the paint here at headquarters has seen hundreds of thousands of winners come and go from this building. And it was time for a refresh. So we have had contractors on site prepping and painting for the last several weeks. This is about a 4 to 5 week project to get the entire building pressure washed, resealed, repainted. Again, this was the original paint from the time this building was constructed, so definitely needed a facelift, and we're excited to see that get done. Same color, if you remember, it's a pretty light color on the building, which we have found best reflects the heat and helps keep our warehouse cool. So that is done intentionally. I've made it a habit here to share some of our staff volunteer activities. And again, this month, we had a number of volunteers help in Manzanita with the Solve Beach cleanup. That took place yesterday, or day before yesterday, sorry, on the 29th. As always, we thank our volunteers. We thank our staff for participating in our beneficiary programs. Moving on to sales. Overall, our numbers are slightly above where we were last year by about 4.7%. Scratch It sales are nearly identical to last year and remain ahead of pre-pandemic levels. Sales of our $10 and $20 game continue to expand, currently accounting for half of our sales in this category. Jackpot games, Powerball and Mega Millions are both up significantly from last year. This is obviously because of several billion-dollar jackpots that have occurred since that time. Win for Life continues to experience a lift in sales from our marketing and BOGO campaigns that we had run over this last quarter, which have the game ahead of last year's sales by almost 50%. So I'm doing great there. Video lottery is down slightly by 2% from this time last year. And sports betting experience has seen a lift from last year with turnover, which is the amount wagered, trending up by about 42%. So again, we're seeing good numbers there. And moving on to a few winner stories. Pamela P. from Salem has been playing the same Keno numbers for almost 14 years. She likes to buy a ticket when meeting up with friends and usually checks it the next day. To Pamela's surprise, her ticket was a $32,438 winner, and she plans to use the money to pay some bills and has not yet decided what she's going to do with the rest. Justin D. of Gresham stopped into a neighborhood Dottie's and played Big City Fives on our video lottery terminals. After playing just a few minutes, he hit a $17,500 jackpot. Justin has been saving for a house, and his winnings are a significant contribution to his down payment. And in sports, a DraftKings player bet $50 on 5 legs, same game parlay for a Major League Baseball game between the Detroit Tigers and Pittsburgh Pirates. After hitting all 5 selections, they collected $8,026 on his $50 bet. And that concludes my report for this month. Back to you, Chair Sathoff.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from the commission for Director Wells?
I was wondering a little bit about the sports betting. It looks like we had a pretty significant increase in that, and I wonder if there's any conjecture on why.
We've had some talk about that. I think our player base has increased a little bit, which is part of that. And we knew in the beginning that there was going to be an upward trend on this. So I think we're still seeing the popularity of it grow, which I think is what is driving some of that.
Maybe a little NFL football's thrown in there on the horizon as well.
That is coming, definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, let's move to the next agenda item, the financial report. Kathy.
Yes, can everybody hear and see me?
Mhm.
Good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Kathy Ortega, Chief Financial Officer for the Oregon Lottery, and I have a lot for you today. We're going to be going over the preliminary final, and it's a little bit of an oxymoron, but year-end report for fiscal 23. And we're going to be going over the first report of fiscal 24, which is the July report. Just a little bit of context on all of this. Director Wells mentioned that we went live with our ERP system. That took place between July 28th and the 30th. The flurry of activity that took place during that time was to stand the system up, get year-end closed on the old system, transfer balances and activity over to the new system so that we could run July reports. All the while, we were making sure that the systems were stable and that they had integrity with them. And we were also closing out all of our year-end reconciliations and activities, which included 2 new GASB pronouncements relative to software based information assets, SPIDAs. They're basically subscriptions that we are being required to treat as fixed assets, like we would a lease agreement. And that was a very complicated body of work. So when I use the oxymoron of our preliminary final for June, the report does not include the GASB adjustments because we're still trying to complete our review. This is going to have to be turned over to the auditor, so we need to make sure that all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. I am told, and I do believe, that the impact on our financial statements for this is not material. And we are still waiting for information from the state treasurer's office for securities lending, which is what we call a pass down entry. It's activity they've done on our behalf that still has to be shown on our books. This review does not include those. So even though I'm going to go ahead and ask you for approval, it does not really change our financial position. That securities lending stuff it's a technical way of pushing information from the parent company down to a subsidiary, if you will. So if anything came up, and we are still being audited, our audit should conclude in around the October-November timeframe. And if anything came out of those various activities that were material, I would bring those back to you to at least inform you of this was a change that came about as a result of all of those processes closing out.
So can I just stop and ask a question really quickly on this?
Sure.
Just so I get it in my mind what we're doing to the, you're gonna have us go ahead and approve the financials, basically because you think the GASB, or you've stated that the GASB impact will not be material. Any significant, if for some reason there were significant changes having to do with the securities obligations, although I think you've decided there won't be, but any significant change, you would come back and get us to reapprove. Do we need to, in our motion, say it's subject to anything, or you just want us to do it as we've got it with this on the record of what's happening?
I would, my recommendation would be to do it as we have it.
Okay.
This is not unique. There have been other years when we have been missing information that we have had to record from other state agencies. And I'm thinking of 2 years ago when it was material. I did come back and talk to you about it. And get your, blessing. Sometimes it's beyond our control. We'd love to have everything cut off exactly when we want it to, but the world doesn't tend to cooperate with us that way.
Yeah, no, my point was not, I'm not concerned about the fact that you don't have everything. I wanted to make sure we were approving this in the way you want it approved. And that we have on the record that there aren't material changes or unlikely to be material changes, but you bring it back to us if you see anything. Thank you.
Okay, so, and that also, I don't like excuses, but it is by way of explanation. With that flurry of activity, we did have a little bit of a whoops in the issuance of the statements that we had to issue a correction for. And I apologize, and we're hoping that with things calming down and stabilizing, that is doesn't happen again. So my humblest of apologies for the inconvenience. So going forward, the first thing I'd like you to focus on is the operating statement for the month of June 2023. And this is the month, not the year. We did have a positive revenue variance. And with that, we had some negative entries to match expenses, variable expenses with the revenue, and some cleanup activity in the ticket line item. Services and supplies and, well, not depreciation, but services and supplies. It's very typical that in the month of June, last month of the year, we do have a flurry of invoices coming in as things get closed out, where we show for the month we are negative. I think when you flip to the final year-end statement, we are very underspent in most areas. So it's not something that is representative of the year. We had net profit of $73.8 million on a budget of $71.9, $1.9 million favorable. And that takes us to the final year-end statement, the final preliminary. I love that phrase. Net revenue of $1,406 million on a budget of $1,393 million is $12.9 million favorable to budget. And as is typical, positive revenue variances always yield higher commissions. We had some slight adjustments in our depreciation and interest expense line item, clearing out, final year-end stuff, resulting in a net profit of $921.8 million on a budget of $863.6 million, $58 million favorable to budget. And so that's where I think you're seeing some of the underspending that we've talked about in the past that we tried to correct for with a 24 budget. So we had a lot of things going on in 23 that we budgeted for, not all of which we were able to do. Excuse me. Looking at the schedule of services and supplies, which is where most of our controllable expenses are, we had for the year actual of a 21.5 on a budget of 37.9, $16 million favorable to budget.
So Kathy, the services and supplies year to date is fairly under budget. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, is that just because of the timing of things we did this year, and is that part of what will roll forward into the next fiscal year?
So, Chair Southoff, I'm going to give you my opinion. We last year budgeted for everything that we felt we should do, which included a lot of work.
Yeah.
That we were not able to get to.
That's fine. I understand now.
That is most of the underspending.
Okay.
Did not care. So here's my opinion. I don't believe it carried forward into 24 because we made a conscious effort to budget based on bare minimum activity that we knew we were going to do and had to be done.
Yep.
So I'm hoping, it's a little too soon to tell, I'm hoping that we are looking at a very different scenario when we get to this point in time in fiscal 24.
Yeah, it says to me that the organization is looking at what can it do, what does it need to do, and then the budgeting forward should be a lot more accurate in terms of what you believe you'll be spending. So I appreciate that. I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going on. Thanks.
I don't quote me on the exact number, but we only have 4 bodies of work that we considered absolute must-haves going into 24. And we had a roadmap that fit a very large piece of paper that we budgeted for in 23.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, I have the balance sheet here for you. And that is the review for the year end 23. our motion has combined both approvals. So I'm just going to go ahead and plow through July 23. And so notable here is the fact that we did these on the new system. So it's nice to know that we made it through that hurdle of the first month on a new system. Net revenue of 119.89 million on a budget of 112.9 is 6.8 million favorable. I'm singing the same tune on commissions and game vendor charges, which are variable related to revenue and are to be expected. The one thing that wasn't expected is a blip that actually I figured out when I was going through doing my review and analysis. We have an error in our budget under salaries and wages for our OPE expenses. We had a bad number put in, and it understated our expenses. And so the reason that this was obvious to me is I've worked here for 23 years, and this is the first time I ever remember being overspent on salaries and benefits. Usually we run way under because of vacancy savings. So that became very obvious, and we looked into it, and we'll take care of it going forward. We had net profit on a 73.1 million on a budget of 62.3, $10.8 million favorable. And for the month, you've got your services and supplies, and month and year to date are the same for the first month. And I just want to issue just a reminder that the reason we don't have a number in the retailer network expense for budget is we are still in negotiation with Lumen. So we didn't have anything to base a budget on for our costs in this area. As soon as we ink that contract, we will go back and do some analysis and come up with a budget number. So, with that, I have your balance sheet for you there today. And with that, those are the two things that I have. I also want to I didn't do it when we were talking about the June financial statements, but we are transferring administrative savings from fiscal 23. And it is estimated that, we've already given them some money, but the final number will come out when we do the financial statements, and it'll be somewhere between 8 and 9 million. So that's also something that the state can use for programs. So I thought you'd like to know, that we did that. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
So
Kathy, I
questions
just
or
have-
comments? Sorry.
Yeah, Kathy, I just have one question on the year-end statement. So on that other income, the other income line, I see a rather large positive variance. I'm just curious, what is in other income, and why was it so positive this year?
Yeah, I'm flipping myself back to first of all, we don't budget for that line item. And so we never have. So that's why it's such large. There's no budget to compare it to. This is for the things that are captured here are things like photocopies that we make for vendors that we charge them for, key replacements, damages to terminals, various things that we collect money for that don't directly relate to games. But the reason that you're seeing such a large number is because that number in my 23 years, that number has been all over the place, and it's almost not worth the time that it would take to come up with what would be a best guess.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve the financial statements?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery's year-end financial statements for fiscal year 23, which ended June 30th, 2023, and the financial statements for the month ended July 31st, 2023, be approved for the record as presented today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, I think we'll be hearing from Director Wells on the major procurement that we, I think, also discussed last meeting.
Correct. Thank you. Yeah, as a reminder, last month we provided you guys a memo in your packet and discussed the fact that we're seeking commission's approval to enter into a major procurement with International Game Technologies, or IGT, for the purpose of replacing approximately 2,500 end-of-life iLink devices. If you remember, the iLink devices are a piece of technology that facilitates the operations and communication between the video lottery terminals and our retail locations to Lottery Central Gaming System. So it's a critical piece of the chain for communications. The new iLink Ultras not only remove this end-of-life equipment, but are also going to improve the user experience for retailers and also set us up for some future enhancements if we're able to do that. So we would love for you to support this major procurement.
Questions or comments? Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the, excuse me, wrong. Is there a motion to approve the major procurement?
I move that the Oregon State Lottery Commission authorize the director of the Oregon Lottery to enter a major procurement with IGT and Nevada Corporation for the purchase of iLink Ultra Video retailer terminals and associated deliverables as presented today.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safoff.
Aye. For the record, the motion has passed. Thank you. And now let's move to rulemaking with Chris Scarrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners, Interim Director Wells. For the record, my name is Chris Scarrow. I'm the Rules and Policy Analyst for Lottery, and I have two rulemaking items for the Commission this month. So back in May, Lottery recommended amending our NSF rule to allow contract termination when a retailer has 4 NSFs in any 12-month period. This change was proposed due to a very small number of retailers whose weekly transfer to the lottery is repeatedly returned due to non-sufficient funds in the associated bank account, which creates a lot of workload for Lottery. The proposed rule will continue to excuse NSFs that are caused by a bank error, and Lottery will have discretion to make exceptions when circumstances warrant. Also, the rule is not retroactive, meaning retailers who are currently struggling with NSFs can resolve those issues now and avoid any risk of contract termination. For the record, we filed notice with the Secretary of State on May 22nd, and we notified interested parties, legislative and media contacts, as well as our retailer email listserv about the proposed change and the opportunity to comment. We also held a public hearing. All told, we received 4 comments by email. 1 comment was opposed to changing the system, whereas the other 3 were somewhat mixed. And those comments were presented to the Commission and Interim Director Wells for consideration, and our audience can see a summary of those in the meeting materials. Interim Director Wells has reviewed the proposed rule and considered all comment received, and he does recommend the Commission adopt the rules as presented to you today to be effective on September 1st. And that is all I have on that. Happy to answer questions if I can.
Questions, comments? Chris, I just wanted the 4 comments that you got, a little bit all over the board, but at the end of the day, my sense is that Other than the first comment, my sense is that Director Wells can make exceptions if there are circumstances that come up that suggest other than the rule should be applied.
Yes, definitely.
Was that not true before, that we could make it, the director could make exceptions? So from the retailer's point of view, that hasn't changed too much.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Is there a motion to amend the NSF rules? Did I get the right one? Mine are out of orders. Yeah. Is there a motion to amend the NSF rules?
I move that OAR 177-040-0052 be amended as presented in the meeting materials today, effective September 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safa.
Aye. For the record, the motion is passed. Okay, Chris?
Thank you, Chair. One more item for you. The other rulemaking is about our scoreboard sports betting rules. You recall that was the name of our original sports betting platform. However, we've since moved over to DraftKings in 2022. At that time, we did adopt new rules to govern the DraftKings platform, but we kept our scoreboard rules in place to govern any remaining activity on the scoreboard platform. However, at this point, all bets have settled and there are no remaining active player accounts on scoreboards. So we did propose to repeal these rules. For the record, we filed notice with the Secretary of State on May 22nd, notified people as required by law. We did not proactively hold a public hearing, but we would have if one was requested. We did not receive any public comment or any request for hearing. Interim Director Wells has reviewed the rules and recommends the Commission repeal them as presented to you today to be effective September 1st. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
Questions, comments? Great. Is there a motion to repeal the scoreboard rules?
I move that OAR Chapter 177, Division 92 be repealed as presented in the meeting materials today, effective September 1st, 2023.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Patel,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Chair Safa.
Aye. For the record, the motion is passed. Thank you. Last on the agenda, any other commissioner communications or other business that we should be conducting?
I would just like to make a comment. So I know this is the first time we've been on camera to do these meetings, and I find it much more enjoyable and engaging to actually see everybody while we're meeting.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good move.
Good. Yeah, we will, we'll continue to do this as we move on. So I think this was your guys' recommendation, actually, and so I appreciate that, the change. This is a much better experience. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, with that, that concludes today's meeting of the Oregon State Lottery Commission. The next meeting will be a virtual meeting and is scheduled on September 22nd. Thank you all for attending today, and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.